Hello, welcome to iFanboy Booksplode, the Avengers in the Veracity trap, or Veracity if you speak like George Will. My name is
You
Conor
just do
Kilpatrick. I'm
on
here with
that one
Josh
syllable.
Flanagan.
I'm gonna
I
start.
watch a
We
lot
should start speaking like George Will and who's the other one? The New York guy,
of
Plimpton.
Plimpton.
We should talk like. I don't think I can.
It's hard, unless you
I'll
say
just
your
do
A
like
is
Franklin
long.
Roosevelt.
The Mid-Atlantic accent. We're
Go
not.
over
We're not
here,
going to
yeah.
do that. We're not going to do that. Here we are. Josh and I are here. I don't even know what we've said. It's been a long day. So, what is the Booksplode? It was unlocked by our patrons at patreon.com/ifanboy. It's where Josh and I, every other month, take a look at a collected edition, an original graphic novel, something that's not a single issue comic book. That show alternates with Josh's Talksplode interview show, and that's what this is. So we're here talking about this gigantic book in the Avengers of the Veracity Trap. It is from Marvel Comics, Abrams Comics Arts. It's from their partnership. This is their second release. I forgot the name of the first one. It escapes me. Oh no, it's the Fantastic Four book. I've got somewhere.
The Fantastic Four.
They put out a Fantastic Four OGN. Was it Alex Ross? That sounds right.
That does sound right.
Yeah,
I think you sent it to me, the PDF, and all legal, by the way. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but now
I want to say it's called Fantastic Four Full Circle.
That sounds right.
Why did I know that? Yep, that's what it was. Fantastic Four Full Circle. It was Alex Ross.
Because of your continuing involuntary task of trying to make sure that you don't remember anything useful or new.
No. Anything I might need is gone.
Oh sure.
But this is still around.
We've been watching Pop Culture Jeopardy with my younger son, and I know all the answers. I just can't remember the words for them.
Yeah, oh no. People always think that going on Jeopardy would be easy, but it's in the moment. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
I always if someone asked me something, like if someone said, "What's the name of the Fantastic Four book?" it would leave my brain. But because I had time to process it, my old the dust kicked out of my ear. The gears started up. The little mouse in there got on the wheel, and I got the anyway.
And by that time, the train is left.
It's already too late. No one cares anymore. Anyway, this was written this book's by Chip Kidd and Michael Cho. Michael Cho wrote the script together from Chip Kidd's story, and Michael Cho did the art and the colors. I assume he did the letters. There was no lettering credit in this book, so I just assumed he did it, but we can't know. They didn't put it. I was excited for this when I saw it. I like Michael Cho a lot. He's sort of and I know this actually bugged him at the time, but he's sort of the heir apparent to Darwin Cook. He's Canadian. He draws in that sort of throwback animated sort of style.
But I can't claim to be incredibly familiar with all the work. I've seen his work, but he doesn't know a lot of sequentials, basically. But this seems to lean more into a Jack Kirby-ish version of it, which is on purpose.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to figure out if that's constantly present or because
Darwin draws like this. He draws like this. He draws like this.
Yeah.
I think this is it's a little more Kirby-esque.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's the point of the story, but he draws in that more cartoony Cook thing that wasn't just Cook. It's Bruce Timm, and lots of people drew it that way. So this came out about a month ago. It's about 56 pages or so, hardcover, oversized hardcover. It covers my face.
It's kind of like the magazine size.
Yeah, treasury sized. Which, by the way, when we were talking about a book some time ago on the Pick of the Week show, we couldn't figure out why it was called Treasury Edition. It's because it was treasury sized. We just don't know because we read digitally mostly. So what's great about this is I knew nothing about it, and when we were looking for a book of the month book, we've done a couple of giant tomes. I knew this was relatively short, so we just decided to jump in 2 feet, knowing nothing about it, which I think is a little bit fun.
When he says we. He just said the book will be there tomorrow, and okay, which was great. I'm not complaining because I didn't have to think.
And I thought, from a design and Chip Kidd's, he's a great designer.
He's the comic book designer. I can't.
So you've got great art from great art from Michael Cho. I call him Mike. And then it's a beautifully designed book. I mean, it's a gorgeous piece of comic book.
Do you think he would appreciate being called Darwin Choke?
Is that what I said?
No, that's what I just said. I just
Oh,
made that up. That's a
you mean
portmanteau, as it were.
so you start reading this book, and will be spoilers and yada yada. We're so off our game today, but that's just have to deal with it. And what you've got pretty much in the beginning is like a super fun but very standard, like the original, not the original Avengers, but a very early version of the Avengers fighting Loki and his monsters. And they did a really fun device where every time a new hero appeared, got like a spotlight moment. And early on, they got a Marvel Masterwork pin up full size page. That was cool, and it's super Kirby-esque. You mentioned that, like, this is, there's Kirby dots everywhere, and the monsters are very Kirby-esque, and it's just this gorgeous, fun thing. I'm holding up this double page spread where Cap is throwing a shield, but it's coming right into the foreground. Like I thought, I had a really good time reading just the story that opens up the book, and I thought, this is fun. This is like a nice throwback. I would like something like this to regularly come out. But then, as they're fighting Loki, he opens up the Veracity trap, and one by one, the heroes get sucked into it, and that's when the story goes super meta, which I didn't expect, and goes in a different place. First thing that happened was going in and out of the trap. If you're watching on screen, you can see this image of Thor. They go from fully colored, fully inked to just inked to just drawn to blue lines, and that's something that only really comics can do. You can't really break film down into its components. I guess you could do it in animation. But I just always love when comics do that, when they break its components down and you like
Aren't
have
films?
the character.
Do they have like that triple color thing though, where they have to like arrange it and then those make
I
the
don't know if
colors? So it's like the red, blue,
not
yellow.
anymore though.
Yeah,
A bit of digital.
no,
But
not anymore. But you could
with animation, you could have like the character lose its color, then lose its inks, and lose its. You could have that happen.
There's a joke in here, or not a. I guess it's a joke, but there's a comment here about deregistration, and that is the most comic book thing. Deregistration, for those of you who don't remember, there was a time before everything was digital, and basically what you have is multiple plates that get used to put a page together. So they go under one plate print, another plate print, another, and that comes together to form the image. Now, over time, especially in the very cheap way that they made these very cheap disposable comic books, again, I don't know if people know, but like they were newsprint, they were crap. Especially in the 60s, they were a dime or whatever. So they had to be pretty, so they would get slightly out of alignment. And that's how you get, it was now used as like an effect to have like the red bleeding out of the outline, and the colors aren't quite lined up with the lines and things like that. That's deregistration.
There was some super indie stuff in here. I need to find that monologue that Thor goes on. Is it Thor? Yes, it's Thor. So we told you the spoilers. If you haven't read this yet, you should really stop reading it now and discover the story for yourself. But when they go through the trap, they are brought into the real world, and they meet Michael Cho and they meet Chip Kid, and they find out that indeed they are fictional comic book characters and not real people. And we go from there. So, John, what did you think what was your emotional journey going through reading this book?
I feel like I don't want to tell you.
You hated it.
I didn't hate it. That's not correct. So at first I thought, okay, they're okay. I went in with a prejudice, and the prejudice is this: Chip Kid is a designer. He's a very good designer. I don't know anything about his ability to write a story. And so right away my thought was, well, he better be really good at this, or this is going to be crap. Michael Cho is very good, but then sort of right away I was like, so we're just going to do like a Jack Kirby Avengers #6 style issue, and that's going to be all it is. And then I kind of was like, wait, this is called Veracity, and that means truth, and we've seen the people talking, so there must be a crossover. And then at one point, it's funny because Michael Cho is talking because they're both scripted in it, and he's like, haven't this already been done before? And I was like, yes. And I kind of got the thought, like, I was like, all right, I'll give them time to see if they can sort of break some ground with it. And it eventually became about the what's the word, circular relationship between stories and audience. Is that like they were like, well, you're just telling us what to do, and it's like, no, you told us how to be. that in that circuitous way from the
we
past,
learned how
which
to be
was
people from you. Yeah.
right, which is sort of true. But I mean, like, it didn't hit the emotional note for me in that way. So for me, I thought it was really great to look at. I think from a technical standpoint, um, like the way that that image you just had of Thor sort of going from one to the other and sort of talking about how that goes to the pencils. I think it was interesting. I think because it was so short too, I felt like it sort of lacked a little bit of depth. It was like a little surfacey in that way. So it becomes a piece of pop art, which is what design is. And honestly, the most things that I found interesting, I was like, this is interesting how he draws Kid and Cho. And like Cho's kind of an older man in this. And Chip Kid, like, I've never seen him that I know of, but he looks exactly like what I think he would look like. And he's the guy who's in New York City with the sort of stripy blazer and the glasses and the neat hair. And so I found it kind of interesting, but not terribly moving. I think the art looked great, and it was fun to sort of look at that, how they did it. I really like the bits where they were pulled, the creators were pulled into the world and then they showed up there as kids. I thought that was interesting watching them go back and forth. I just felt like it was like a skipping stone. Like it did a cool thing, but it was over before it really had a chance to do anything new or deep.
That's interesting. I found it really emotional.
Well,
I found it really, really emotional. I loved every moment of it. I loved that the ending, that the hero saved the day by Steve having to draw and come up with a very Kirby-esque, Imaginator machine, and the way that it Ouroboros between, like you said, the heroes coming into the real world, the real world going to the heroes, them each influencing themselves, the heroes having a crisis, an existential crisis because they realize they're not real, but then the Michael Cho and Chip Kid saying, you made us people, you've told us how to be good humans, how to do the right thing, I thought really emotional. And then again, they saved the day by the heroes saved the day by becoming comic creators, and then they by finally going through the machine again, they forget that all of it that happened. I thought it was really, really well done. I'd be happy, honestly. I would have been happy if it hadn't gone into the meta route and just was an old school Avengers story. I would have totally been thrilled with reading that. But when it got incredibly into the history of comics, at least from a production standpoint, I thought Thor's monologue was really funny when he came back and was talking about
he was beaten.
Well, because he realized he wasn't real.
Yeah, he lost all his mojo.
Yeah, I think this is just a really interesting and fun thing. Like if comics went away and they just occasionally put out things like this, I'd be totally fine with it. Because I thought this was just really incredibly fun to read.
See, I think it's interesting that you said you'd have been fine if it was just sort of a story in that style, and I don't. I think for me, like, I don't know if that accomplishes anything because the original things already exist. So if you're just watching somebody sort of play in that, in order for it to be worthwhile for me, I feel like it would have to do to make it stand out from that, because otherwise, like, I can just read the Kirby and Stan ones. Like, I don't know why I'd want to watch somebody necessarily just do an impersonation of it, because that's kind of what it is
every week, though.
How so?
Every comic is doing an impersonation of them before it.
Sort of, but they're all trying to bring their thing to it, and we're watching it evolve in time. I mean, just the format changing from it being one story, per issue, or two stories per issue, as the case may be, into sort of this other thing that they're trying to do. And obviously, we're in the point now where the comic book writers are all writing for themselves. They're all writing for middle-aged men and not kids. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, when I think for this, is like when there exists this vast library, these decades of material, I don't really need to read somebody's interpretation of them doing it exactly in that style, because I can just read the original ones, and it's going to, like, the original text will be more valuable to me.
Well, that's interesting, because we've always been fans of, like, when Joe Casey does the throwback Avengers stories in the Kirby style.
Yeah, but there's something else going on there, though. Like, what is in there isn't necessarily what would have actually come out back then. Like those have an air of sophistication underneath them that is, I think, the creator's trying to say something more, even if it's just about itself, just or the form or something like that. I don't think I just think they're more self-aware. And I think sometimes it works. So I like it in like a short story, but I also just think that you're bringing something to it. I don't know that there's a point in making a story that you're not bringing something to, other than just doing what somebody else did. Just doesn't seem valuable. It can be, it's fine, but ultimately it's a lark, and it wouldn't necessarily be deserving of a prestige edition book.
Well, no, that, I mean, they wouldn't have done this.
Right.
Obviously, the story they're telling was what they're told. I mean,
Yeah.
the first quarter of the book, or it's sort of just a standard Avengers story. Maybe it's not even that. I don't know. I didn't count the pages, but
this was my favorite part. Was pulling off
that
the
was
dust
very
jacket. Cool. And by the way,
and this really well designed book.
This is Chip Kid's move. I mean, it's been the same thing. You have that that Batman book that he did forever ago.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's just like a big close up on beautiful art.
Well, I mean, also when you take it off and you got the non-dust jacket version, which is also very cool.
Yeah. That's that's like the other side of the inside of the dust jacket.
But I know he figured out that like this stuff is awesome looking, and it's really awesome if it's like if there's an extreme close up on something from it, that's really great. Like I said in the beginning of the show, a lot of people read these Kirby books when they were cheap newsprint and bad printing and not great coloring. Yeah, he's the one who took them and like blew them up and cleaned them up, and you're like, look how awesome this looks.
And was smart enough, although the interior color has a little bit of shading to it, but not too much. Was smart enough not to try to modern colorize, because I don't know that there is anything more offensive, and I'm including Spider-Man's vile glowing blue chest spider. There is nothing worse than putting modern texturized shaded computer coloring over a Jack Kirby drawing. It is loathsome and offensive.
Well, I mean, anything from before that era, anything from before 2000 shouldn't have any kind of shading or texture.
But very specifically, like I was downloading a bunch of Kirby art so I could make a rotating background for my phone. And like I ended up with a bunch of it that had clearly been colored post-computer, and I was like, get it off.
Well, remember with the Brian Bolland recolored Killing Joke, which he did himself, but they colored it in a modern way, and it just didn't look right. Like it just the Killing Joke had flat colors, and it should have flat colors.
And that's one of those, like, just like Star Wars Special Edition or whatever. Like, why would you ever want to do that? Like, clean it up. Like make it so it's visible. Make it how you would have liked it to print, given what you had done.
Right.
A Giles Beatles, the Giles Martin sort of thing. Like he cleaned up the existing tracks that were there and brought the song out. He didn't add shit in or change it or that's what that feels like to me. Anyway, that's
I agree with you. That's a lot of why I like this. I mean, it's like this is it is a throwback story in a modern production. I mean, even though Michael Cho is doing Kirby style, it's still modern layouts and modern storytelling devices. It's not Kirby wouldn't have drawn this way. He would have packed way more.
You're absolutely right.
He would have packed way more into the pages.
He would have packed more into the page, and he wouldn't have left it this big, and that's absolutely true. However, and this is not an argument against it, but it's clearly, if you're familiar enough with it, you can see like these are all takes on Kirby. This is like
100%.
This is a straight evolution of like just these little tiny panel breaks. The hammers just through the line and going over panel by panel. That's all.
And the texture on the hammers very much Kirby stuff. I also just love this team. Like this is like my child. I mean, I wasn't a child in this, but when I was reading reprints as a kid, which I was because I was that kid. This was a sort of the Avengers team that I loved the most, which is, even though the Hulk shouldn't be there.
Was he gone? He was gone.
Hulk left after issue 1.
Right. Okay. And then
he's only in the first issue, and Captain shows up in 4.
You know what? That's fine. Take it. Do your thing.
But I just love this. I love this. The pointy-headed Iron Man mask, and I love Giant Man and Wasp.
I'm going to tell you something right here. Go back to this Loki. Have this be Loki again.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
miss this
kidding.
Loki. Yeah, no,
Just be
I'm
that
not
Loki.
either.
He's Loki, the evil one. I get it. You did all sorts of things. Have him go back to that for a while, just a few years, if nothing else. Have Loki be that guy. You know what? You know what Cho did. Like, you can look at the character designs and the Kirby dots or whatever, but the thing that really got me, and the monsters,
Mm-hmm.
but that
Totally.
the design for the vehicle that they made at the end, which had a
Yeah.
name that I don't remember because it was
It was
weird.
like the Imaginator or something like that.
Yeah, it had like a curve in the middle of it. I thought that was spectacular. There's a building also somewhere. It's just a sort of Kirby building, and that's where he was like, "Oh, I'm doing this." Like he said, the Imaginaritator.
The Imagine Irritator.
That Steve Rogers drew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Rogers is Jack Kirby.
You're right. Hey, yeah, created that style. We didn't know about it. So to watch it in sort of that blue line style and have it pop out in this sort of double page crazy colored spread where they're driving around, and it's ridiculous. It's a child's imagination thing at that point, which I think is a sweet idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just this is this double page spread up thing coming to life is it's just a really fun take on imagination and story and the worlds that we comic readers are crazy, and I'm putting us in that category. We read these characters for decades, and we become attached to them as if they were real, and we get angry when things happen to them we don't agree with or think that would be happening to them because we think of them as real. I think of Steve Rogers as a real person.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. They're drawings and some overworked dude in a drawing table and some other guy and an editor came up with the story and
they've all got their idea of who that character is, and it is no more valid or invalid than anybody else's. In fact, since they were given the job, I would say that their idea is in fact more valid than anyone else's.
Absolutely. But my point is that, like, what is the nature of reality, right? These characters have been around for longer than most of the people reading them, and they're going to live longer than any of us will. And in a way, they're real. Like, I remember distinctly in college reading a Fantastic Four comic and think I've been following Johnny Storm longer than I've known anybody in this building. It's in a way they become real, and that's kind of part of the story too. Is like these characters come out of this thing, they are real, they are told they're not. There's a whole existential thing with that, and then then the kid, it just becomes this weird sort of meditation on what is storytelling and reality, and the weirdness that comics bring into that discussion.
Well, it's kind of interesting, and this is a thing that's true about story, and many people have written about this. I'm sure that there's a lot of, I'm going to say Neil Gaiman. There's a lot of Neil Gaiman, I think, that deals with this, and Sandman specifically, is that if Grant Morrison, and if you sort of look back, okay, imagine that there are real historical characters who lived, and there's things about their lives that we live with to this day for whatever reason, how they affected the world before them. And it could be said just as plausibly that the things that these fictional characters have done, and many others in movies or books or whichever, those things all still affect us today. People talk about things that happen in Shakespeare plays as if they're things that real people did. And in many ways, it's really weird to imagine it, but these characters are no different culturally than Shakespeare's characters were at the time that they were putting on plays at the Globe Theater. And I believe that. I don't believe one is a pop. They're both pop art. That's all it is.
Right. And more people would have seen the Avengers movie than ever saw Shakespeare's play. And at the time he was writing them.
And maybe, maybe the words don't stick around as long, but the idea is that iconography, the greater, there's words for it that I don't remember. I'm positive Grant Morrison has written about this now. And earlier when I said, when Michael Cho says this has been done before and better, so very quickly I was like, oh, it's Animal Man.
I had the same
to
thought.
A certain extent.
Yeah.
And I also we didn't talk about it. There is a twist that's sort of interesting that happens with Loki that I was like, oh, that's got to be him because it's a little bit of a red herring. But that was interesting. That was well done. It was a good idea.
Uh, you know, for obvious reasons, we shouldn't talk about him, but this is sort of what Neil Gaiman's whole career was made on, which was like
Yes,
the power of story and characters.
idea.
If you tell a story enough times, a character comes to life and is real, or for long enough. So it's just all like,
Yeah, I mean, you can take it even further back in terms of like myth making, and we look
yeah,
back at Roman gods or Greek gods, and like what are those? But pop culture characters in a way that people live their life according to.
yeah. And these have been said. These are modern mythological
Yeah,
characters.
yeah,
These are way more people. Like I bet could tell you about Iron Man than tell you about Zeus.
yeah.
Other than like having heard the name. So yeah, I think there was a lot. I do think there was a lot going on here, and it's totally fine if you didn't connect with it.
I
That's totally.
I think
I think there was a
that
lot of stuff. A lot of interesting storytelling happening here.
I think that for me, I wanted something else, maybe a little more sophisticated or refined in the story part of it. I just felt like it was very much skimming along a surface that looked really pretty, but ultimately didn't really tell me anything. I didn't illuminate something that I hadn't thought of or understood. Um, it was a piece of design. It was like the story itself was a kind of design, in that it was the thing that you looked at and felt and moved through, and the words were there to move you along with it. Um, I don't know if I'm coming across here. I'm totally generalizing because of what I know Chip Kid for the most part, but
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to not have preconceived notions, even though we know that the history of comics is the history of people writing and drawing their stories. Anytime an artist writes, I think most people have a preconceived notion in their head that it may not be as good. But this is, try not to have them.
I think it's that given our I'm not going to say expertise, experience with, and sort of like how much we've thought about these characters and all of this stuff, I think for me it would have benefited to have somebody who was much more sophisticated at it, trying to say something, and that could have failed too. It's probably failed more often than it hasn't. Um, it was a little. I felt a little like, yeah, I know. Just take it or leave it, and then maybe it's not for me or something like that. And maybe not everybody thinks about Grant Morrison's Animal Man as much as I have in my life, and that's like that's got something to do with it,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll
I know
disagree
you.
and say I found a lot of depth and interesting storytelling happening here. I mean, I thought immediately of Animal Man as soon as they popped through and he said, "We're not
Oh,
real."
sure.
I was like, "Oh shit, we're doing that." Um, but what came after, I thought, was what the meat of the story was, and
Because we saw the creators talking about it before that. Because as soon as we saw the creators, I went, "Oh, Veracity! Like we're going to interact with the real world here, real."
yeah,
And that's an interesting sort of metatextual thing too, is that the real world isn't real. The real world is drawn by the exact same cartoonist who's drawing the other one,
right,
and they're
right.
drawing. I when you talk about it, it gets better. So they're interacting with fictional versions of themselves.
That's what I mean. It becomes a
That that,
strange
that
meditation on what is reality.
and they're writing those characters. So the characters on the page who represent the authors actually do not have a voice in what it's saying because they're being directed at the same time that the other characters are saying they're being directed by those. Anyway.
I don't think I noticed. I skipped past it, but I held up earlier this title page. But that is the creators in it. So
yeah,
I didn't even know. I didn't even notice. But I thought them going through the trap and becoming children in the fake world was sort of the heart of the story, which is like, these are kids stories that we have evolved into adult stories, but using the same childlike characters, and but ultimately they're still for kids. And
so the next thing I'm going to say is going to be a spoiler. I don't think we did very
it.
much spoiling, but I need to be able to discuss it. So through most of it, again, you were just warned. Chip Kid's kind of a dick. And I was like,
interesting choice.
yeah, no, like, and that was when I was like, wait a minute, what happened to Loki? And it turns out that Loki is Chip. And I thought that was a good idea. That was well executed, the whole thing. But like for a lot of it, I was like, Because, like I said, I went in here with a preconceived notion of how this designer guy was going to write these characters, and then he's drawn himself as a fucking blowhard. He's writing it that way, and I was like, "See, I was right. What a snob!" But that wasn't it. I like that he went to Canada too. By the other way, just instead of making the artist come to him.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I just don't agree with it. That's totally fine. We can disagree on the.
I wouldn't want to take it away from you. Like I'm in no way standing here trying to convince you it's not good. That's not what's happening. It's just how the story affects the reader, which is exactly what the thing is about.
So, let's do ratings on the Avengers and the Veracity Trap. Veracity.
I think I wouldn't be surprised that this is going to win like the best original Eisner. It'll be nominated certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll get nominated for the story and then for the design of that book. You watch.
I'm giving it 5 stars out of 5 because I thought it was amazing. I loved it.
3.5.
That's higher than I thought you were going to go.
I always go higher. I'm very critical, and then I think I'm
only. I'm looking at the cover. Only someone like Chip Kidd could violate the too many fonts in one image rule and have it work. He's got a lot of fonts going on.
He does, and I think you shouldn't count the Marvel art logo in the corner. By the way, awful logo. Just for the record, I hate it, and it doesn't belong. That. I would hope not, because it does not belong on that cover. And if I have any respect for that man, I want somewhere him to be. I just hate that that's there, and I can't do anything about it. But fine, I want him to have protested because it's not good.
Vociferously.
Yes.
Can we put it on the back? So that was the Avengers and the Veracity Trap. Josh and I have very different opinions on it. Hopefully you had an interesting opinion on yourself. You can tell us what you thought. Next month will be a new Talksplode interview from Josh and some creator. Maybe it'll be Chip Kidd.
It's unlikely. I'm not saying it isn't going to happen.
And then we'll be back with another Booksplode in October. Who knows what that will be? We'll figure it out when we let you know when it happens. In the meantime, go to iFanboy.com. You can find all of our podcasts, including Josh and I's weekly Pick of the Week show. We talk about the week's comic books. You can find all of our shows over at youtube.com/iFanboy. All of these shows. If you want to see the images from the book, if you want to see what we were talking about, you can find that there. Maybe you're already doing so. And I'll
tell you this. I don't know if this is available digitally, but don't read it that way. And we're very pro-digital.
Yeah.
If you're going to read this, get the book. Seriously.
No, yeah, for sure. It's oversized and it's deserving of it. And then there's also elements of the actual physical production that are important. But this is a big.
Yeah, but it's just, and I'm gonna assume that Michael Cho depicts himself as drawing this, on paper. So that is, I think it's just part of it. I think it's a physical. I think it very much helps its case being a physical object. If I had just read this on a PDF, I probably would have had a worse opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's a beautiful physical comic.
Yes, yes.
It's a Chip Kidd book, and he always does great stuff. All right,
it's a Chip Kidd book, but it's full of a wonderful artist who has respect for his roots and still does his own style at the same time.
All right, we'll be back in September with another book of the month or Booksplode, whatever we call them. That's a whole other thing. My brain just went to an old file and called it up. Until then, I'm Conor.
I'm Josh. How hot is it there?
Pretty hot.
Yeah,
pretty hot.
I feel like I can tell. Like in a good range, depending on you.